Hello, and welcome to Pixel's July 23 update, live stream slash AMA. Um, we'll wait a little bit longer to give time for people to come in. And so while I do that, I'll just be rolling a few dice and checking that everything is good. So here, let me move this out of the way, roll some dice for entertainment while we wait just a little bit longer. So there's a collection of different dice here. We've shown them before, and in fact, I'll probably show more pictures today. Different sizes. You've of course seen the D20 many times before. Give me 1 second. Okay, everything looks good. We have a dozen people total, so not very many, but that's okay. So yeah, this is the the monthly update for Pixels Dice. We'll be covering a few things today, a few production updates, some pictures, and then I'll be showing examples of things that people have done with the dice already. I'll be going over the fun and exciting coding challenge that we started on Discord, and I'll be talking about various things here and there and taking questions from people. So let us start with some pictures. One moment. Let me switch to the desktop. Thank you. And here I'm going to share this because it's fun to look at them this way. Here's a bunch of dice. These are basically all the dice that we have to make for you guys. And part of the reason why, things take a long time. These are not final pictures, obviously, because there's a few details that we were still tweaking. But it kind of goes to show the number of items that we have to prepare. So let me show you some better pictures actually while you're here. As we're taking those for instance, the website and Pledge Manager when it opens, all these things. Jess has actually been using really nice equipment now to take some real proper product picture, so much better than what I can do with the webcam here. And I just kind of want to show like how pretty the dice look. Once again, this is the Midnight Galaxy D20. This one right here when it's lit up, right? And here when it's off. And you can see there's, I believe it's called holographic powder, something like that. It's a very, very nice flakes that are actually really making it look like, a galaxy of stars. And then when it lights up, it's even more beautiful. It's a lot brighter to the eye when you see it, but thanks to nice settings, we can take some really, really good pictures. Here is, for instance, the clear. In the clear, as we mentioned before, we paint the numbers this sort of copper color. So you can still read it because otherwise it's really hard. But when it's lit up, you can really see the line sort of, reflect or refract or whatever the word is through the nice facets of the dice. It's really fantastic. This is the Aurora Sky, same idea. This one's really, really bright in person once you light it up. We, I've been putting, together picture sets. So this is, for instance, the Aurora dice. As I mentioned, we have many, many more, and we're, working on them at this very moment as well. Here's, for instance, all the colorways that we're offering, right? So these we're actually going to use these for like references when you like select your dice. So the onyx black, which is really, just a really polished black, hematite midnight, which is semi-translucent, aurora sky, and then clear, where you can see the internals of the dice. Speaking of internals, I will share a picture that is kind of fun. That one of our, oops, I don't want to open Photoshop. One moment, please. Mr. Photoshop opens. All right, well, that's okay. We'll just do this. Yeah, one of our electrical engineer was trying to figure out an issue with some of the dice, and it ended up taking X-ray pictures of the D20. And so these are really, really fun to look at. So if you see a D20 die, this is pretty much what it looks like. The circuit board is completely transparent. And you can mostly see things that are metal or metallic in some way. And so, for instance, you can see the wireless coil that's used for charging up here. You can see the counterweight on the opposite side to make the die, as balanced as possible. The middle is the battery. And in fact, if I zoom in, you can even see sort of the layers of the battery because they're rolled, right? Like it's a film, and then it's rolled in a little cylinder. And then the rest of the black marks are like, the little pads and legs of components and things. The circuit board is completely transparent. The resin completely transparent. But anyway, I just thought that was a fun picture to share. Look at the inside of the dice. I hope we can take some of the other dice as well, but this really was a one-off thing for now. Anyway, just kind of fun to share and fun to confirm that things are pretty well lined up once you cast the dice. Anyway, let me close Photoshop because we don't care. Getting back to the colorways, actually, I see a question came in asking me about the Aurora Sky and whether it's white or blue. It is on the blue side, right? Oops. Oh, actually, there it is. The Aurora Sky is, bluer to look more like a sky, I suppose. It's really nice. Like it's not blue enough that it affects the color when lit up, but it is blue enough that in person you can tell it's blue. Here, let me switch over to the ones I have right here, right? And they obviously look blue in person, right? It's a really, really nice color though. And again, really sparkly and beautiful. Let me go back to my face so I can answer more questions. Which one's my favorite color? It's going to be a toss-up between clear and aurora, honestly. I expected to not like clear very much, but the more we work with it, the more I really, really enjoy being able to see the inside of the dice. In fact, here, let me show you some of the real close-ups because they're just so cool. Here, desktop. So ignore the counterweight. It will be painted black, but just the ability to see the dice inside the circuit board, the components. I just think it's really, really neat. Right, so this is like the 6-sided die, and you can even see the little green component here. Some of the insides. It's just really neat. So anyway, like here, in fact, you can zoom in and see the LED, the inside of the LED even. I just find it really neat. So, maybe it's the electronic nerd in me or anything like that. But I really enjoy the clear after all. Also, it is hella bright. So if you need a night light or anything like that, yeah, clear is your go. Okay, so let me go on to updates really quick before I answer more questions. Um, and these updates will be accompanied with more pictures. All right, so, oops, one moment. So production updates, there's not a ton to show. Obviously, you've seen the pictures of all the dice. We sort of shared most of them, maybe last update or something like that. Or maybe we showed videos. We have updates on manufacturing of charger inserts this month. So here I will again switch to picture and show these. And in fact, these were about a month ago. These are the little inserts that go inside the charger that fit the different dice. And this is how they look after basically the first run at tooling. I don't know, first phase of tooling. And then they test the injection molded, on a few, I don't know, a few dozen parts to see if there's any issues. And you can see it doesn't look super awesome. There's definitely a lot of little marks, and it kind of looks cheap, honestly, if you ask me. But then after they texture the plastic and work through some of the injection flow issues, this is what they look like this month. So this is surface texture that they I'm not even sure how they do it, but anyway, they make it look the same texture as the chargers that you will get. The injection cold spots, I think that's what they're called, are less noticeable. They're still a little bit noticeable, so we are working on that. But for the most part, like they're completely gone from the D6 inserts, the D8. They're barely visible on the 10 and 100. And they're just a little bit visible on the D12. So we may do something about it. We may just call it a day, call it good enough. We'll see. The most important one is the cap here, because this one will be visible on the large charging case if you have a slot that isn't not used, whereas the other ones most of the time will have a die in there. This is what they look like on the flip side, right? So you can see they didn't bother texturing the bottom side of these inserts because, well, nobody's ever going to see it. And in fact, all these circular marks are where they push the plastic out of the steel molds, and so that's why you see these all these little marks here and there. But yeah, I thought this was interesting and fun to share. Apologies, this picture is super blurry, but this is essentially what the tooling looks like for these, right? So we make 8 at a time. The D20 inserts were done separately because those are the first ones we made. But yeah, they're made 8 at a time, and if you can make it out, you can see the holes that the rods come through to push the the finished insert back out of. But yeah, so we have this month. I'm actually going to be getting my hands on those really soon. We have more progress on the onyx and hematite. One of the big issues we were having was making extra sure that all these numbers were, perfectly clean when they come out of the molds. We mentioned in the last update that these were a little bit more, difficult to make because of that. And so we're happy to say that, our tests are doing really well right now. We, in fact, let me find a picture. I don't have it here, sorry. But yeah, so anyway, so we are, moving forward with this. We also are, making sure the color of the white here is just right so that you can read it when it's off. So it needs to be pretty white, but it doesn't block the light because that would kind of defeat the purpose. It needs to be not too white. We've also made good progress, excuse me, checking out the molds for all the other dice sizes, right? So these are, you know, samples from the factory, very small quantities still, but they're just to make sure everything works, that there's no bubbles, that there's no problems with the, you know, assembly of the dice. This kind of looks like a potion, honestly. This one. Um, you know, this is the D8, right? So really, really nice finish. Again, the factory is really, really good when it comes to all that stuff. Really sharp edges, sharp finish. We're really happy. Um, here's a D12. But yeah, so you know things are moving forward, and you know so far no major roadblock. It's just that things take a long time. You know, there's always back and forth and you know overhead, or what do you call it, time that it takes to 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 get, you know, people to do the work and get the things that you need for the other people to do their part, for the other people to do their part. All right, so let me go through questions really quick before I move to the next topic. Beyond Foundry, got it. Okay. Yes. Oh, yeah. So I have a few questions that were submitted through the forms that we send every time. A couple questions about essentially the dev kits, which, by the way, if you have not sent us your address and you're a dev kit recipient, please make sure you do. You know, there's about 10 people that we're still missing addresses for, although I would bet if you didn't bother sending us your address, you're probably not watching this. But in any case, there's about 10 of those that still, you know, need to come out. We are probably going to keep those, you know, safe somewhere until those people reach out. It's entirely possible that they only reach out by the time we open Pledge Manager, so we don't just want to give them away. Whether we have more dev kits in the future, still, you know, to be determined. You know, since every die is a dev kit, it really just means, you know, do we have dice, and are we willing to sort of sell you dice before our regular backers, right? And it doesn't sound like always a great idea. So we'll, you know, we'll figure out, like, you know, partners, etc. Of course, you know, we try to make sure they have dice, but then just, you know, backers wanting to pay extra to get some, that doesn't feel quite right. So we'll see. I'm not saying completely no, but you know, there's consideration. Apologies. Yes, we're looking at a black screen all this time. So let me see really quickly. Oh, somebody's mentioning something about the hematite color. So here, let me go back to the hematite. We are tweaking the formula a little bit to make it darker. So here, let me open the hematite really quick. 1 second. Right, so let's say this one. Right now, it's a little on the light gray side, and I think it will end up being a little bit darker. But yeah, don't hold your breath. You know, wait for the real pictures, the final pictures, I should say, to come out to make your decision. But yes, some of the early concepts or pictures I shared for the hematite were a little darker than this, and so we're trying to get back to that tone, etc. Let's see. Look at my list really quick. Yes. Okay. So the next thing I wanted to sort of share or show was some of the fun integrations or projects that already use the dice. So let me find that window and I will show you because they're fun. Here it is. Okay, so this was a an implementation done by one of our community member, Jean-Philippe Ancos, I believe, showing the dice working with an ESP32 microcontroller on a little dongle thing with a screen. This, by the way, is a great little tool. And I think it took him maybe a day or two to get everything working, but yeah, it just shows the dice working beautifully with you don't need to see my recommendations, that's hilarious. Working beautifully with IoT devices. There is another example that is lots of fun. This was partially already shared, but I will do it again. So this was one of our community members called CNED. I do not know their actual name. And it's a cool little roller, in fact, written in a Blazor language, I believe. Sorry, a C# language for web. Yeah, it's a super fun. But anyway, it's a small roller, and let me actually refresh the page, connect to a die. Okay, so which one? This one. There we go. And let me zoom in as well. There we go. So you essentially type in, formulas for your roles like you would in, many tools. And then when I roll the die, it actually reads it, gives me the number, and it sort of updates all the formula at the same time, right? So it doesn't need to know what I'm trying to roll. It just updates everything, which is fantastic. And so, in fact, CNED went the extra mile and did something really, really cool, which is, if I believe it's right here, yeah, you can import a PDF directly from D&D Beyond. So if, for instance, I go here, I have one, my character on D&D Beyond, and I go to the, I think it's Manage tab, right? And you can export to PDF. If I download it and open it, right? So it's just a PDF file, but actually CNED is able to parse it and hold on one second. It is, where is it? This one? There we go. And bam, I have a character imported from D&D Beyond PDF and has all the formulas that would be on the page. It's just pretty amazing. So yeah, and then if I roll it, there we go. It updates the formulas, everything. It's just sweet. We shared some more integrations in the previous update already, so I'm not going to go over those again, but I just wanted to show these two just because I thought they were super fun. Okay. Go back here. Let me catch up on questions if there are any. From Aqua590, is that a giant pixel in the background? Yeah, actually, yes, it is. We had a creator make that for us. It's this creator was making regular die shape lights, and we just asked him to make one with the numbers of pixels. Let's see. More update questions. That's it. Okay. One moment then. Okay. Let's see. There's a couple more things I want to cover today. I got these pictures shared. Update. The pictures we talked about. Yes, the inserts. Yeah, so other updates, just to cover them. more testing, more certifications for all the different parts, for the wireless charging, for the Bluetooth, which we, started a long time ago, for the battery with the large charging case. All these things are happening right now. And we are, setting up everything we need for, fulfillment, pledge manager, etc. Expect to hear news in the coming months. No date announced today, but we're getting closer. And, as I've said many times before, we are waiting to have, final pictures of all the products from the factory before we open Pledge Manager. So that's when we'll do it. And that way also you won't have to wait for a long time between when you fill out the Pledge Manager and when we're able to ship your items. So again, no firm date update, but things are coming together. All the millions of parts are coming together to make sure that you can get your dice as soon as possible. Let's see, more questions not answered. Oh, yes, sorry. Yes, Cup of Noodle submitted through the forum. Wants to know if they would be able to purchase rejects during the QC process. Probably not. Because we don't really want to have inferior products out in the wild. The things that don't work. But also because of the logistics of it might just be a pain. We already have so much to handle, just for regular product, that at this point we're not even going to consider, a different channel to figure out how to, get some of the QC rejects. Ask me again in, a year, and we're sitting on a pile of them and we don't know what to do, or something. Who knows, right? Maybe. I know that that's something they do a lot for like plastic parts. So like when you change the color, of an injection mold, you sort of have to flush the tools, like the tooling, right? And so you end up with some parts that are like mixed colors that are perfectly functional, but they're the wrong color. And so sometimes people sell those. So, maybe, but for the moment, not, we're not even gonna worry about it. And Kevin is asking me what the favorite part of the journey of making this dice is. And ask me again in 6 months, I guess. Because right now my favorite part is also my most hated part, which is being involved at every level of making the dice. It's fantastic because it means I know, about every single detail of the dice and how they're made and how they're, put together, coded, modeled, assembled, tested, everything. But it also means that, I am involved with many, many different areas. And so right now it just means I work way too much and I have, very little time. So it's at the same time, the thing that I enjoy the most, making something from start to finish. It's also the thing that is just taking, all my time. So I think once, the dice are in your hands, I'll be able to like unambiguously point to that as my favorite part. But right now it's both my favorite and my sort of curse, right? So it's a little bit of both. Speaking of complexity, actually, that is the next thing I was going to show, just because I thought it would put things in perspective and it was just fun to look back at it. Let me go to the desktop again and switch to this little diagram. So we shared this like a long, long time ago. And this is essentially the production pipeline for the pixels. And it looks, super complicated. And even though we put this together, I don't know, a year and a half ago now, maybe even 2. Ugh, it's crazy. It's still pretty much unchanged. Essentially, it starts on the left here I can zoom in, where we have to acquire a bunch of different components, right? We have a ton of like different suppliers for the electronic components, you know, like the LEDs, the counterweight, these are custom made, the magnets are off the shelf, the batteries are custom made, the transmitter coils and the receiver coils for the wireless charger are custom made, right? So it depends. We have to get all of those, you know, to the, oops, excuse me, to the circuit board factory, which then, you know, makes the circuit boards and assembles them. And it does this for all the different shapes that we make. It also does it for the charging case and for the large charging case. And then these things have to, you know, there's a bunch of input from us at every level, right? So obviously we have to design the charging case or the circuit board, design the, you know, the circuit board for the charger, the large charging case, we define the testing, right? Like regimen. There's a different word for it, but you know, the standard operating procedure, the quality inspection standard, like all these things, bunch of stuff, right? So that basically, you know, the factory can run through the tests, make sure the boards are good before they send it to the next part. But yeah, they're, you know, we have a bunch of circuit boards. We have a number of plastic parts, right? So these are all injection molded, like the inserts that are shared today, right? So we have the caddies, we have the inserts, we have the single charger case. So the last one that we're making right now is the large charging case, right? So this one is in the process of being, the tooling being made, basically. So hopefully, you know, we'll have some cool updates with that very soon. But, you know, same thing, these have to be quality controlled, tested, etc. Like you saw, you know, some have visual defects or things that we can improve, etc. But then, yeah, then these things go to different places, right? So the caddies go to the factory where they're getting folded into the shape of the dice. Then they go to the factory that does the resin casting and the polishing and the sanding. And depending on, you know, the type of die and colorway, they may have to do it 1 or 2 times. And then they have to do their own testing, right? So there's visual inspection, of course, like making sure there's no bubbles, etc. Then there's functional, making sure the dice still work, that they're calibrated, all those things. And then they finally make it to sort of the final assembly factory, which, you know, grabs most of the parts from all the different places, right? You know, the cases and the circuit boards, and they put them through, you know, their own test, you know, once assembled, making sure they actually charge the die, and then putting those into, you know, the packaging so that they can be sent out. And so here, then it goes to the fulfillment partner, which, you know, we'll share more about when the time comes. But yeah, I figured it was, you know, worth sort of looking at, because we're literally designing everything in here, like including, you know, the packaging for the dice, right? Somebody has to make that. And then all the quality checks, all the etc. So, you know, we like to think that we've been fairly clever with making cheap ways of testing things. Like we've shown in many updates before, we almost do everything with an Android phone, which, you know, cuts on cost like significantly, and actually has, you know, all sorts of really nice things, nice features to check the dice. But yeah, it's you know, not completely trivial, even though in the end the device is fairly simple. But yeah, so the last thing I was going to share in this update was the coding challenge. So if you're not so interested in like how things work internally, like how the dice work internally, you know, this may be pretty boring for you. So before I jump into it, I'm going to make sure I've covered any other questions we've had. And otherwise, I'm going to do a quick little rundown of the coding challenge. So let me check if anything else has come through. No, okay. Okay, so the coding challenge. So one of the things, actually, I think the easiest way for me to show is probably with video first. There we go. Yeah, this one just disconnected from the the dice roller I was showing. So it notified that it disconnected. But let's say I'm using this die, right? And obviously the dice know, which way they roll. That's kind of the the core, one of the core offering of Pixels dice. And so they know, okay, this was a 20, or this was a, can't read it now, 7. But there is one slight annoyance with these, is that if I shake them, even if they don't necessarily quote unquote roll, they might think they did. Like, so here, that wasn't enough. Not enough. Well, it rolled over. Well, okay, it is still doing pretty good. But if I grab it and then I put it back down, I didn't even rotate it, it thinks it rolled, right? So that's something that's kind of, not ideal. I wish there was a slightly better way, that the dice were a little bit smarter about, what is a legitimate roll and what is sort of like just me, moving it out of the way and putting it down on the table because I need to do something else. And so I thought, this is really just a data processing issue. Like someone needs to come up with a good algorithm for, processing the accelerometer data. And so I put it up as a coding challenge on Discord. So if you're interested, you can go to our Discord channel here. I will share it on screen right here. There. There is a coding challenge with dice, up for grabs. Essentially, if you can figure out a good algorithm for determining when a die is rolled or not, you can win 2 or 1 pixel. The rules are explained, the data is explained on the Discord channel, so I won't go into too much detail, but essentially I'll cover the basics, which is the way dice know how they roll is because there's an accelerometer in it that measures the direction of gravity, right? So basically when the die is resting, as it is now in, share screen again. When the die is resting as it is now, it is, being subjected to the Earth's gravity, right? It's not falling because it has something underneath it, but it still feels that weight, right? That force, essentially. And so, and the direction of that force is how the die knows, which face is up, because basically it has, its own reference frame. And so if it can sense that, the die is in the force vector is in mostly the y or the x direction, then it means, then it means that, gravity is pointing a certain way, which means it must be facing a certain way. Unfortunately, that is not the only force that this can sense. If I move the die like left to right, it's going to sense that as well, right? It's still being affected by the force of gravity, but it's also being affected by the force I'm applying to move it. And that's where it gets confused, right? Basically, like when it's moving, it, all it knows is that it's sensing a force in a certain direction with a certain magnitude. So what this looks like in concrete terms, here, is essentially we have, you know, a force value. Can I zoom in? No? Oh, here, let's open in browser. Maybe I can zoom in here. Yes, right. So we literally have, you know, readings in X, Y, Z, like in 3D space of the direction, you know, the components of the force. And from that, the dice is supposed to try to figure out, you know, what is happening to it. Like not only which direction it's facing, but also maybe if it's rolling, if it's falling, if it's being shaken, or, you know, just being moved, translated, etc. For a little bit more clarity, and then I will, you know, change subject, because if you want more information, it's on the Discord. But if I can find my Discord, there it is. I have actually I've generated a, where is it? A video with the a capture of what is happening to the die, right? So as I am, let's see, rolling the die here, there's a capture of what is happening to the die, and, you know, what the readings are on the X, Y, and Z axis. Oops, sorry, it's kind of cut off at the bottom. 1 sec. Oh, I can't, it's full screen. But anyway, yeah, so if I grab it, you can see as it's rolling and it stops rolling, the X, Y, and Z values are changing, right? So this is the same data that was on that spreadsheet. It just helps to sort of maybe get an intuition for what is going on, you know, and what the spikes mean, and etc. So anyway, so what I'm looking for is, you know, maybe some suggestions or ideas on how to make the not a roll detection better, right? Because like I said, it knows pretty well, you know, when it has rolled, or, you know, what face it's on, but it's not as great at determining when something wasn't a roll. And so if you have any interest in, you know, algorithms or data processing or anything fun like that, you can take part in the coding challenge. You don't need a die, right? Like it's really just about getting some data in and outputting some sort of value that says what's happening to the die. And if you do a good job, you can get a pixel or two even. So yeah, you know, like I said, details, the data format, the, you know, explanation of everything is on the Discord. Please feel free to go check it out. And then, yes, make your submission. Right now, I think I had the date set for the end of this month. I think I'm probably going to push it another month to give people more time. And also so I can give them more data. Okay, hold on, let me catch up with questions again and see where we are. Discord, where are you? Oh, you're here. Okay, hold on 1 second. Okay. Yeah, so I think that covers about all the updates for this month. I'm probably going back to China, but I don't know when exactly. I want to make sure my timing matches with when important parts of the tooling and molds and cases and all that stuff sort of comes together. So I don't just go to, you know, sit there for no reason. So I don't have a date yet, but it is still in the plan. And we are still aiming for, you know, pledge manager in a few months, but no firm date. You know, stay tuned for an actual announcement, and then shipping, you know, to start, you know, hopefully soon after that. Again, you know, more information coming soon. Let me hold on for a little bit, see if there's any more questions coming in. Otherwise, I'll probably end it here for today. And I think, yeah, I think that's going to be it for this month's update. Let me thank you for watching. You know, as usual, we'll have the video up on the monthly update and, you know, links to the relevant things, pictures, etc. Thank you again for your time. I think, yeah, I'm excited. We'll see, you know, the updates coming soon. We're gonna have lots of exciting things, and you know, lots of great news in the coming months. So thank you again for watching, and for your patience. See you soon.